Hello, my friends. Welcome to this week's episode of Things I Wish I Knew About. This one's going to be a solo episode, just a little It's Tits. Again, if this is your first Tits episode of Things I Wish I Knew About, it stands for Things I Think, tiny W with Stacey. And this is really where I talk to you guys about stuff that I'm thinking about, stuff that's on my mind. There is no guest, there's no rhyme or reason, just things that I like to share with you and things that I like to listen to as well. I may have to get up and let my dog in at some point. So if there's a minor pause, apologies, but he's my best friend and I got to do what I got to do. So today I want to talk to you about the idea of creating or designing the life that you want. And I think that we hear a lot about this, and I like woo-woo, I like universe, I like the idea of manifestation, I like the idea of creating, and I think that that's kind of what this is about in terms of you. So I'm going to give you some of my thoughts about this, not really steps, but maybe questions to ask yourself and to consider when you are thinking about your life and kind of what you want the next 5 years to look like, 10 years, 50, whatever the case may be for you, but what you want that to be and how you get it to be the thing that you want. Obviously, I'm not a witch. I mean, maybe I am, but this isn't a magical spell kind of situation, but really things to think about. Let's start at the beginning with creating the life that you want, the life that you have in your head. I think the first step, which is sometimes overlooked, it's overlooked by me, honestly, for a very long time, and I'm kind of still in it, is that you really need to have clarity and be honest with what you want. What exactly do you want? Like not what has society or your family or people in your life told you you should want, like not like a patriarchal system of you need to be married and have 2.5 kids, work at the same job for 20 years, 50 years until you retire and die, right? What truly do you want? Like, what does that look like for you? And maybe that question is a little bit too big right off the bat. It is a little bit big for me. I was saying to someone earlier actually on another episode of the podcast that my goals are fuzzy for me right now. And that's tricky because I don't have a very clear direction to go in. It's like I know kind of what I want, but there's no specific one big goal that I'm going after. So it's difficult to align my trajectory to something. So movement feels stagnant. It's a tricky time, but for me and maybe for you in this kind of situation where you're not 100% sure, any action is good action, right? And whether that means you take a step in one direction and then that forces you to recalibrate, pivot, redirect, you're still moving. There's still movement. And that's as valuable as moving towards the goal, So if you're not 100% sure, maybe start thinking of what do you want more of in your life? What do you want less of in your life? And sometimes these are not things that you can manage, right? Like I'm sure everyone's going to say, I want less stress and I want more money. Yes, yes. But how can we do that? Everybody would like a little bit more money, I would imagine. But in terms of the next 5 years, what does that look like? Like what is the goal? Let's say money. Is the goal to save $10,000 by the end of the year? Then you're going to work backwards from that, like what do you want? Do you want a career shift? Do you want to move across the country? Do you want to travel more? Do you want to get in super amazing shape? Do you want to spend more time with your family? Do you want to read 3 books this year? What do you want? That's really the first most important question. And it's super important to be honest about that. Because if you're not, why even answer the question? If you're not, why have any kind of introspection about your life and what you're doing and where you're going? So let's say it's like a new job or let's say it's a new career. I'm not suggesting that you quit everything tomorrow. Maybe for you, maybe you're the kind of person that you're like, yep, I'm going to quit everything tomorrow. And that's cool for you. But for the majority of us, quitting everything tomorrow is not feasible. And it's probably not the best idea, especially if you have kids and a family and responsibilities. So I'm not suggesting that we're going to quit everything tomorrow, but I am suggesting that you start thinking about how you get to the goal. Do you want to go back to school? If you want to change careers entirely, what is really required of that career? Can you do a little bit of research on that? Can you find somebody who has that job? Can you gather information. And I talked about this on another podcast too, but passive action versus massive action. In this scenario, you maybe want to do a little bit of passive action, a little bit of research before you kind of decide, yes, this is exactly what I want to do for the rest of my life, or whatever. This is a huge change that I want to make, and I'm going to do it immediately. Maybe a little bit of passive action in this scenario. Remember, passive is reading books, watching things, talking to people, asking questions to move you towards kind of a definitive decision. So that's a big one. I think another big one when you're thinking about your life in general and you have something on your heart and you want to change your direction, you cannot, hear me when I say this, wait for motivation. Motivation is a myth. It's a ghost in the corner. It is not real. Motivation is wonderful. And if I had a secret formula on how to get motivated, I would be a kabillionaire. Unfortunately, action comes first, which is not always unfortunate, but it really is if you're waiting for motivation. You need to act before you're ready, and then motivation follows. It's not going to come. It's not going to come first. You're not going to be sitting on the couch and be like, I'm motivated today to change things. I'm motivated today to completely overhaul my life. If that happens for you, and you tell me, you go make $1 billion actually, because I will buy that book. But if you're waiting for motivation, if you're waiting for a sign, if you're waiting for all of your ducks to be aligned, everything to be in a row for the perfect time, there is no perfect time. There is no perfect time. There is literally only now. And the positive thing about that is that if you decide to make a choice, it is the correct choice. That's it, because you didn't make the other one. If you are two roads diverged in a yellow wood, if you are at a crossroads and you think I could go this way or this way, and then you choose one path and it doesn't end up being the right path, you didn't mess up. That wasn't wrong. You shouldn't have chosen the other one because you didn't. Can you course correct now? Absolutely. But it's not a wrong situation. You can't think, oh, for the rest of your life, I should have chose that other thing. I should have chose that path. There was a reason that you didn't. So if you can avoid dwelling in the rightness of your choice and just make a choice, then you can recalibrate. Then you can, figure out if that's in fact what you want to do, if that is the right choice for you. Waiting for motivation to tell you which way to go, it's never going to happen. You have to start. You are the captain of this ship. You are going to make all the decisions. And that's terrifying and so wonderful because you just get to do it. Whatever you want to do. What a beautiful life. You get to decide, again, within parameters. Obviously, there are limitations and situations that are out of our control, but you are the one that's going to decide. The reason that you are in the space in your life right now, if you looked back over your life, there are a million decisions that you made that brought you to where you are now. Maybe presently you wish you could change some of those decisions, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you want that. That's not where you are. You can, however, change the quote unquote future. You can change how you move from now on, how you move forward from wherever you are. So what does that look like for me? I like actionable steps. I like a step-by-step. I like a list. I like things that I can check off. And when I listen to different podcasts or different people who are kind of in I don't want to say self-help, but I guess kind of in a self-helpy kind of space, sometimes it's so obscure and abstract. I'm like, what do you want me to do? What should I be doing to move into my desired life, to move into future Stacey? And I think I have figured it out for my ADHD all over the place brain. What that looks like for me, because I'm a visual person, is, that concept of live the life you want to be living. You know what I mean? Where it's like, live in the future now. But like, what the shit does that mean? I don't have $50 million right now. So how can I live in the future? Like, I'm not going to Cartier and buying 1 million pieces of jewelry because that's not reality. And that's always been a big disconnect for me, but with my current reality and living in the future. But I think I've worked it out for a way that works for me. And what that looks like for me is living like future Stacey would, but in the small day-to-day increments, right? So future Stacey is very fit. She's very strong. She's very healthy. So what does present day Stacey need to do? I always tell myself, I want to make future Stacey so proud. No, past Stacey. No, I want present day Stacey to make decisions for future Stacey. That's what it comes down to. Like, for example, whenever I go to a concert or any kind of a venue with assigned seating, and I show up to that venue and I have booked myself an aisle seat, like primo seating, I am so elated that past Stacey made that choice. Future me in that moment, which is present me, I'm like, past Stacey fucking nailed it. It makes me so happy when I've made a decision for myself in the future. And that is across the board. If I'm going to go make dinner later tonight and I open the dishwasher and it's empty because past Stacey made a decision for present, slash future Stacey, what a fucking dream. And you get to do that for yourself, for your future. So present you is making decisions for future you. So if I want future Stacey to be jacked, strong, I want to be super strong. Present day Stacey is going to have to make that happen. Present day Stacey is going to have to put in the work for future Stacey. And that's kind of the way it makes sense for me in my brain. How am I going to get to this dream life without, step-by-step instructions? Well, you're going to do the step-by-steps that need to get you there. If future Stacey wants to have $50 million, how do I reverse engineer that? And what does present day Stacey need to do to get to that? You know what I'm saying? And I know that's a large example, but we can break this down in like day to day. I know that future Stacey is somebody who gets up early in the morning, takes care of all of her hygiene. I'll wash my face. I'll brush my teeth. I will floss my teeth. Then I will go work out. I will make positive choices for food. Future Stacey is the kind of person who would look nice every day. Maybe I'll put on a little bit of mascara. Maybe I'll blow dry my hair. Clearly today is not that day where I was successful if you're watching this on YouTube, but it goes throughout the day like that. Future Stacey is the kind of person who takes care of herself. She goes to bed early. She sleeps on a satin pillowcase. She washes her face before bed. She makes conscious choices when she makes her meals. She is present for her children, like doing it like that, living my day as future, ideal Stacey. And if this is something like maybe you want to create a moniker for yourself, maybe future you has a different name. Maybe it's like Princess Elizabeth does this, this, and this in the future. And then you kind of become that persona. I hope this is making sense. It makes sense in my brain, but I hope this makes sense for you. But it really comes down to when you're creating and designing your life, it's going to be present day decisions that create the future that you want. And those present day decisions are not always going to be motivated, right? They're not always going to be easy. A lot of the time they're not. I would imagine if you spoke to, I don't know, some kind of a bodybuilder, let's say, or a fitness athlete, I would say for the majority of the time, they are not pumped about eating boiled chicken breast and egg whites and rice cakes, but their future goal dictates that present them has to do that. So when they walk across that stage, it's like they booked themselves an aisle seat. They are so pumped about the decisions that they made present, past. So what is a tangible physical thing that you can do to kind of do this? So if you took a piece of paper and you drew a line down the center, and on the one side you put present Stacey, present, insert your name. And then on the other side, you put future ideal. I don't want to say ideal because you're already ideal, but future you. And then on the present side, you're going to list all of the habits that you do, all of the things that you do every day, what that looks like, everything, every single detail. Do you blow dry your hair? Do you get gas ahead of time? Whatever the situation is. And then on the other side, I want you to write what your ideal day would look like. What would you do in the morning? What would you eat for breakfast? What would you wear? How would you drive? What do you do for work? What time do you go to bed? Every single detail. And then you want to cross out any of the ones that repeat. So if present you is the kind of person that flosses and future you is the kind of person that flosses, cross those out. And then anything that's left on the future you side, that's kind of where you want to strive, right? So are there any of those that you can do? Future you goes to yoga 3 times a week. Maybe you can't afford a yoga membership, but there are free yoga classes on YouTube. So maybe you can carve out 30 minutes a day and do yoga, So you want to create your ideal life. Again, I'm saying ideal, but like the life that you want to live. You want to design your life. And can you look at the two lists and pick from the future ones the things that you can do right now? You may not be able to do all of them, right? Like maybe future you doesn't work anymore. Maybe they've figured out how to retire and they're traveling. And so some of those are not going to be easy things for you to do. But a lot of them will be things that you can. And if there are things on the list that are things that you can't do yet, like travel for 6 months out of the year, then we kind of would go back to the reverse engineering. How do you make that possible? Is that even possible? Is that something you can do? Anything that you can think, I believe you can do. But sometimes things are bigger asks than others. Doesn't mean it's not possible. It's just might take a little bit more time, a little bit more help, a little bit more reverse engineering. And the bottom line for all of this, whatever the goal, whatever the future you decides that they want to do, is consistency. You're going to need to be consistent in what you're doing. It's very easy to slip into comfort and familiarity and things that you do now because this is where you're comfortable. This is where it's easy. So it's very easy to slip into that. But consistency is going to change the game. Consistency in anything. If you consistently played the guitar for the next 6 months every night, you may not be Eric Clapton, but you'd be a hell of a lot better than you are right now. It's really just honoring the commitments that you make to yourself. And it's so easy to not. I am the queen of this. I'll say I'm going to do something and then I'm like, meh, I don't want to. I'm too tired. That's not booking myself aisle seats, guys. That is not booking myself an aisle seat. So I really try to honor the commitment that I make to myself. If I say I'm going to do something, if like I'm going to go to yoga on Friday, go to fucking yoga on Friday, Stacey. You said you were going to do it. If I said I was going to meet somebody for lunch and then I was like, I don't want to do it anymore. That's not for me. That would be real shitty. I'd be a real shitty friend. You need to be a great friend to yourself making these decisions. And these episodes that I do are usually pretty short. So I'm going to kind of wrap it up here, but I want you to know that you are allowed to want something different. You're allowed to want something more. You're allowed to change your mind. You have one shot at this. And I was listening to a podcast. I can't give you statistics on this, but I was listening to a podcast a couple weeks ago and they were talking about happy people and happiness and the happiest people on earth and no, 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 no. And what the study found was it wasn't achieving the goal that made you the happiest. It was the process of doing it. They really do. It's the journey, not the destination, blah, blah, blah. But it's so very true. It's who you become while you're creating that change, while you're moving towards the goal that you have, the future that you want, creating your dream life, designing it. I hope that makes sense. I hope that makes sense to everybody. Sometimes I go off on a little tangent, but this is the stuff that I'm thinking about, you know? That's how I try to live my life, creating goals and moving towards them. That and a notebook. I have a real notebook problem. Nothing is full of more possibility than an empty notebook. And my Amazon cart is currently full of 2026 journals. Can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with a 2026 journal. Anyways, that's all I have for you today on this week's episode of Things I Wish I Knew About. It's tits. I hope you like this. If you do like this, can you share it with people? Because that's a huge help for me. Or take a screenshot and put it up on your story and then I can share it. And if you like this kind of stuff, I would love to talk about it more. Listen, to be honest, I'm probably going to do it anyway because this is my podcast and I'm the boss. I'm the boss. So thank you guys so much for tuning in and I will chat with you guys soon. Okay. Have a good one.